Hi, this is Carretero Family.
We are from East Los Angeles, Boyle Heights.
You're watching Channel 35, our city, our channel.
In LA this week.
A symposium here at Union Station to help seniors make the transition to riding Metro. And that transition may be a lot easier than you think. I'm Gil Reyes with the story next.
We'll show you how some neighbors in Sunland, Tujunga took the city's neighborhood preparedness plan and put it into action, which may have saved some neighbors during a fire. I'm Anna Margos, and we'll have that coming up.
Discover your neighborhood parks through virtual reality game Pokemon Go. That's all coming up. Hello and welcome to LA This Week. Thanks for joining us. I'm Yana Kay. Well, the images look pleasant, but read carefully and you'll notice dark, hidden messages about abuse. A new advertising blitz shines a light on the hidden crime of domestic violence. As Gil Reyes reports, the ads have the support of LA's first couple.
That's not a typo. The sign reads, "You may now hit the bride." Expect to do a double take when viewing the city's latest ads.
Abuse of any kind has no place in a relationship, and it has no place in our city. This powerful campaign will send that message loud and clear.
The First Lady of Los Angeles, Amy Wakeland, and her husband, Mayor Eric Garcetti, talk about the Domestic Violence Has No Place Here campaign. It takes romantic imagery, say a box of chocolates, and pairs it with contrasting messages about violence and control. This one says, "Without me, you are nothing."
You'll see posters on billboards, bus benches and shelters, city facilities like our libraries and our recreation centers. And these posters broadcast loud and clear a central message, that love and abuse do not belong together.
As a father of three, two of them daughters, I have this talk all the time. Somebody that's controlling, somebody that wants to know where you are all the time, somebody that is willing to talk about force, that's not a relationship you want to enter.
That goes for everyone. The city has received $425,000 from the Justice Department to improve domestic abuse services for people with disabilities. The LAPD has also expanded its DART, or Domestic Abuse Response Teams, over the past year.
Only about half of the LAPD divisions before had a domestic abuse response team. Today, every single one of them does, and that is tremendous.
The signs in English and Spanish come from the Quigley Simpson Ad Agency and placed on billboards donated by Clear Channel. There's also a website for people in need of help, nodvla.org. The LAPD says 1 out of 2 families in the U.S. is involved in domestic violence at some point. 1 in 4 victims are men. At City Hall, I'm Gil Reyes for LA This Week.
If you need help immediately, call 911 and log on to nodvla.org for more information on shelters and resources. Well, if a fire breaks out in your neighborhood, would you know what to do? A disaster can happen when you least expect it, but taking quick action can mean the difference between life and death. That's why the city is pushing LA communities to start a neighborhood disaster plan. Anna Marcos shows us how one neighborhood plan may have saved residents from a fire.
I was sitting in a chair right by the front window. I saw a huge black plume of smoke. I knew it wasn't a barbecue. By the time I got outside, I saw flames and I heard the sirens.
A house barbecue fire in the Sunland neighborhood could have grown deadly with 10 people in the house. But some residents say it was their own neighborhood preparedness plan and the readiness of one of their team leaders that helped get the family out in time.
He got them out before there was any smoke inhalation or, God forbid, burns.
We may have helped out some just by knowing the people and knowing where they lived and how many were in there.
Resident Pat Kramer took the first step in creating the neighborhood disaster plan with help from the city.
I went out and I put out a letter on everyone's doorstep. I knocked on 40 doors.
She and Eleanor Dolan, another team leader, have even picked out a command control center in case of a disaster, Dolan's own backyard. She has even created a map of the neighborhood.
I did this on my own, thinking it would be a really good idea to know where everybody lived, how many people were in the houses and how many pets they had.
Much of the plan is borrowed from the city's 5-step neighborhood preparedness plan, which includes defining how much of your neighborhood you will be responsible for, recruiting team leaders, and creating a plan, among other things.
The main disaster we are preparing for is an earthquake, because we know the big one is coming.
Every neighborhood should have a plan, because if they don't, after a big disaster, they're going to be on their own. We don't have enough first responders to come and rescue each and every person.
So you get to know your neighbors, but if that's not enough, the city has added another incentive. For anyone who writes up a neighborhood emergency preparedness plan and turns it in, the city will give them one of these, an emergency preparedness kit. For these neighbors, no earthquake yet, but the plan has already paid off. A house has burned down, but the people in it are alive and well, partly due to neighborhood readiness. I'm Anna Marcos for LA This Week.
The city also has a new Jumpstart program, a shorter version of the 5-step plan. For information on neighborhood readiness, visit 5steps.la. Well, from a neighborhood plan to a college plan, and a big relief if you're an incoming freshman. LA is offering 2 free semesters of community college starting in September. Experts sat with the mayor to discuss expanding this program even further. Gil Reyes explains.
The only high school student member of the LA School Board says she's proud of LA's newly enacted College Promise.
Because it is groundbreaking, and it is something that the entire country will be following one day.
But first, how about tuition-free community college for at least 1 year throughout California? The possibility probed at this panel discussion at Getty House.
Where students can expect that upon graduation that they will actually go to, as a normal course of circumstance, one of our colleges.
LA's Promise offers free 1 year's tuition at LA community colleges for graduating LA Unified students starting next year. It's patterned after Long Beach's Promise system. Long Beach Superintendent Eloy Oakley, who is also the incoming chancellor of California community colleges, promises to take up this fight in Sacramento.
We're going to do everything we can to create an environment in California that allows districts like LA to do what's right for their community.
LA Mayor Eric Garcetti moderated the discussion and talked about the costs.
It's $250 million to make this throughout California. $250 million may sound like a lot. In the state budget, it is not. So we're looking forward to helping support those initiatives as you take on, in December, your new role.
The scale we're talking about is massive. I mean, it has not been done at the scale we're looking at. And it takes really dedicated leadership. It takes partnership.
Between school districts, colleges, and generous corporations. At the Getty House, I'm Gil Reyes for LA This Week.
LA's College Promise alone costs $3 million for the first year and required donations from the Broad, the Karsh Family Foundations, as well as the LA Dodgers. Well, 1 year of free college tuition is certainly a good thing, but add a free computer, that's just the icing on the cake. As the city's innovative computer giveaway arrived in the West Valley, and it certainly didn't disappoint. Gil Reyes reports on the latest Our Cycle LA rollout.
The lines formed early as families in and around Reseda became the latest to receive free refurbished computers, thanks to the city and its partners.
Everyone's going to get a full desktop computer that comes with a monitor, a tower, the mouse, all the cables, a keyboard. They're also going to get a Wi-Fi adapter. Since these are refurbished computers, they're going to get a MiFi device, so they get Wi-Fi as well.
That's 4 free years of internet access, Windows 7 and Microsoft Office included. The families can thank the Our Cycle LA program. Our Cycle takes thousands of outdated city department computers and refurbishes them for people in need.
We didn't want to just do what most cities do, which is they send their computers to the scrap heap or to be recycled. We wanted to actually take the equipment that the city had been using, that the taxpayers paid for, and find a way to make something positive happen in the community with those computers.
Councilman Bob Blumenfield represents this section of the San Fernando Valley. He worked with the city's Information Technology Agency, or ITA, to launch the giveaway 2 years ago. For many of these families, it's their very first computer. Other families in Van Nuys, Baldwin Village, and San Pedro have also received them.
We're working very closely with local schools to identify families in need who don't have a computer at home, can't get the homework done, can't browse the internet, can't do the research that many of us have become accustomed to. And so we're getting them the opportunity with some training to be able to get out there and compete digitally with the rest of us.
Councilmember Wesson and other council members to bring this program to various communities within the city of LA. Some things probably very few cities do anything like this throughout the country. And it's a very, very positive program and activity that literally you can see that the city is giving back.
And your neighborhood could be next. Stay tuned. In Reseda, I'm Gil Reyes for LA This Week.
Around 85 computers were handed out. Well, turning now to a program where students help each other to succeed. City Year, part of the National AmeriCorps program, held its 10th annual swearing-in ceremony with a fresh crop of volunteers. Anna Marcos takes a look.
You could say the young people in this City Year AmeriCorps program are cheerleaders of sorts. Today, close to 300 volunteers are getting sworn into City Year Los Angeles, a nonprofit program that goes into schools in disadvantaged neighborhoods. The volunteers help teachers and students in the classroom with one-on-one tutoring, mentoring, and academic assistance for students with the highest need.
Each school year, 1 in 4 of our students drops out. In some of the communities we serve, the dropout rate is close to 50%.
I serve to basically be a shining star that lights the way for those who may be lost in the dark.
This is a great opportunity to give back to the community that I came from and to also be able to work with students.
What you're doing is you're giving hope and inspiration to young men and women, young boys and girls who have so many obstacles laid in front of them through no fault of their own.
On its 10th anniversary, the City Year program is now in 28 LA schools, in places like Watts, South LA, Boyle Heights, and Pico Union. Mayor Eric Garcetti spoke to the volunteers through video.
A recent study showed that students at City Year schools are up to 3 times more likely to improve their math and English scores. They have better odds of crossing that finish line on graduation day.
We are building a movement that truly will change the world.
This year, City Year Corps members, there is a hate that is directed at our kids and their families and their communities that has a national stage unlike we have seen in generations.
Good morning. Buenos dias.
Many of these young people are college graduates who themselves have taken advantage of academic programs in their neighborhoods. Now they are ready to pay it forward and help other students like them succeed. I'm Anna Marcos for LA This Week.
My name is Alex, and you know what I got. What do you got?
In its 10 years, the City Year program has helped more than 27,000 students succeed. Well, maybe you or someone you know is an older adult who can no longer drive. Well, that shouldn't stop them from exploring Los Angeles, especially since Metro is offering group tours for seniors on how to use public transit. Gil Reyes has more from Union Station. Gil.
Well, Yana, here in car-centric Los Angeles, the philosophy has been for years that if you were too old to drive, then that was it. You were relegated to your home or your living room all day with nowhere to go. But not so anymore, especially with so many options on Metro available. And there are groups out there to help you make the transition.
Barbara Jaden leads what's known as the On the Move Riders Club from her home city of Duarte. Once a week, this group of older adults gets together, rides Metro, and explores all the great things Los Angeles has to offer without ever driving.
So this club came along at just the perfect time for me. And I've met all kinds of new friends and new adventures. Every week is a new adventure. Santa Monica is always a popular destination. And now that we can get there on the Gold and then on the Expo all the way, that's always a popular one. Naples Island, but that's totally with buses out of El Monte Station. And cruise to Naples Island, end up at Belmont Pier Brewery. I don't know if that's the name of it, but it's a nice little restaurant down there.
These group tours are free, except for the fare and the price of lunch. The goal here is to encourage more seniors to use public transportation Seniors who've spent most of their lives driving, but might be intimidated to make the switch.
We're hoping that, after several trips, a person would feel like, oh, okay, this isn't so hard, and I can do this, and I learned about Route, 25, and it goes right by the Trader Joe's that I love. Why don't I just go on my own?
Roughly 25,000 older adults ride Metro every year. Some of the newer ones have gathered here at this symposium at Union Station to learn about some of the secret perks, like senior discounts. It's just 75 cents for one-way trips, 35 cents during non-peak hours.
And we also hope that we will inspire older adults to get out of their houses and go places, because who wants to grow old sitting in your living room? They're learning about their city and their county, and they're having fun and meeting other people too.
If you can't join a club, just get out and travel with your friends, because there's so many places to go that are right near train stations.
So ride Metro, explore Los Angeles, and savor the good life. At Union Station, I'm Gil Reyes for LA This Week.
And Metro has on-the-move clubs in Sylmar, Chinatown, and Mar Vista, and is looking to establish more. If you want to start a group or join an existing one, call the number on your screen at 213-922-2299. Well, heading south to Watts, where a two-day festival took attendees on a musical journey around the world, all without having to leave a historic part of Los Angeles. Rasha Goel has more on the celebrations.
It's a day of celebrating indigenous drums, music, dance, and art represented by different cultures, but all under one hub at the Watts Towers Art Center.
It's so multicultural, it's so family-oriented, and we have the best talent in the city on stage.
And there was certainly plenty of talent on hand at this 55th anniversary of the Watts Towers Art Center, which has been the hub of artists and their artwork for decades.
Sometimes we don't get our fair coverage on the media, but Watts is a very rich place culturally. We may be challenged economically, but we're very rich in culture.
After all, the Watts Towers were built by Italian immigrant Simon Rodia. Building this masterpiece was his obsession for 33 years.
We've got to acknowledge where he came from. He started all of this. He was recycling before it was vogue.
The famed Watts Towers have served as the backdrop for a festival that has become a tradition for so many.
This has evolved into a cultural event as opposed to just a family event.
An entire weekend dedicated to the rich cultural diversity that makes up the City of Angels. I'm Rasha Goel for LA This Week.
Now, if you have kids, then you've probably heard about Pokemon Go. The game is a worldwide sensation, and the city is using it to attract more visitors to area parks. Gil Reyes has more.
The Department of Recreation and Parks has figured out a way to lure visitors to one of LA's best-kept secrets.
Today has been pretty great. Like a lot of families, a lot of kids.
Welcome to the Exposition Park Rose Garden near USC. The 7-acre park is on the National Register of Historic Places, but because it's hidden behind the Natural History Museum, many Angelenos didn't know it existed until now, after invitations went out on social media to play the popular game Pokemon Go here.
It's on a phone, whether you have an iPhone or a Galaxy, and you download the Pokemon app, and what the goal is, you join a team, and there's different levels. Levels 1, if you go all the way up to past 30, and that's depending on how many Pokemons you're able to get. So the more you play, the more Pokemons you get, raises the level, and you go around your community or wherever you may live, and you battle for gems and Pokemon, and it's a good opportunity to be outdoors and play the game.
The Department of Recreation and Parks set up Pokemon gym battles and lure fests at other locations from Griffith Park to Cabrillo Beach. Players, mostly young people, get their exercise in and explore places they never visited, while others get a chance to sell their wares.
This is a Poke Glove, and it's the world first glove with a built-in battery, and basically it charges your phone. with a battery in the back of your hand. And so the phone doesn't die, since Pokemon Go is an app that drains your battery pretty quickly.
Cashing in on the craze is yet another way to score. At the Exposition Park Rose Garden, I'm Gil Reyes for LA This Week.
Handsome Dam Recreation Center in Lakeview Terrace and Travel Town near the LA Zoo also hosted Pokemon Go gym battles. Well, over at City Hall, it was a party aimed at helping the hearing impaired get connected, socialize, shop, and get access to important city services. The annual Deaf Festival LA rolled into action with an added conversational twist. Anna Marcos has more.
At this festival, people were not only speaking in tongues, but in American Sign Language. The hand gestures of ASL were everywhere as the annual Deaf Festival LA kicked off on the steps of City Hall.
This is an opportunity to come and have a wonderful time with people not so much like you, but you can learn to sign here.
Entertainment, vendors, artwork, food trucks, and all kinds of city services helped cater to the hearing impaired, but folks with normal hearing were also welcome.
This is a one-stop shop for people to pick up resources, connect with one another, network. This is a really important and sometimes neglected or not thought of community.
Deaf individuals, families, and communities really see themselves as a whole culture. And I think, we're working very hard in the city of Los Angeles to make sure they're recognized as a culture just like other folks are.
From train sets to high fashion, this festival had a little something for every taste.
Oh, but we have a fashion show. You know how the people go like, and the hair.
Basically a good old homegrown community festival like any other, but with a lot lower decibel level and a lot more expressive hand movements. I'm Anna Marcos for LA This Week.
Councilmember Mitchell Farrell says the city is trying to be more responsive to the hearing impaired. It has installed more video remote interpreting services at libraries and other locations in the city. Well, Councilwoman Nury Martinez stands up for women's health rights. A staple in the community is honored on its golden anniversary, and a call goes out to all LA artists to take part in a special exhibit. All these stories in City Beat. Councilwoman Nury Martinez recently joined the Los Angeles Coalition for Reproductive Justice to praise passage of a resolution that reinstated abortion care insurance coverage for all women regardless of income, insurance, or where they live. The group asked the City Council to lift restrictions on abortion care coverage so that every woman can make a decision that is right for her. They're also calling on Congress to repeal the Hyde Amendment, which prohibits using federal funds to pay for abortion care.
No woman, particularly the most vulnerable in our society, should be forced into an unwanted or dangerous pregnancy by a Washington, D.C. politician.
Councilmember Jose Huizar and Councilmember Curran Price honored the two-time Stanley Cup winning Los Angeles Kings on their 50th season. The organization, which supports and contributes to many local groups in the community, also announced a $1 million donation to the YMCA to get more kids involved in hockey.
We're going to get hockey sticks in over 5,000 kids' hands, and we think that could really make a big difference.
LA's Housing and Community Investment Department is calling for submissions to be part of a first-of-its-kind exhibit called The Phases and Faces of Affordable Housing in Los Angeles. The exhibit will run from mid-March through April 2017 and will focus on the human cost of homelessness and the lack of affordable housing in Los Angeles. Between 30 and 50 images and videos will be selected based on creativity, originality, quality, and adherence to the focus of the exhibit. You may submit as many photos, videos, and stories as you like. For information on submissions, visit hcidla.lacity.org/phases and faces. An all-new stop sign was installed recently at the intersection of Mesa Avenue and Avenue 61 in Highland Park. This was made possible by community members who spoke at a special meeting of the Board of Public Works in Cypress Park last January. They requested a stop sign to be placed at the intersection. Well, can a mural really improve neighborhood pride? And the bottom line? Well, city leaders and one local merchant are counting on it as they unveil a new business and a new public mural in Sun Valley. Here's Anna Marcos with more.
At Raspado Express, the motto is, a little bit of street art is good for business and good for the soul. The party helped celebrate the grand opening of the restaurant in Sun Valley and the unveiling of the mural Childhood on one of its outside walls.
A lot of my murals have to do with social justice. So there's, books that were banned in Arizona, there's immigration rights, there's environmental justice, global warming, saving water, just kind of make people more conscious of what's happening around the world.
Owner Oscar Limon also put in his own 2 cents worth when it came to the creative effort.
I thought about having childhood memories of kids playing. I feel like kids are losing that sense of street playing, and that was my motivation.
For community members, artists and non-artists alike, mural art like this is a giant step forward for Sun Valley.
I like seeing young people develop and learn to express their talent in a more positive way than writing on windows and walls.
I hope that kids get involved, but we got to create that environment for them. We got to make it cool, and we got to find them a place where they can express all that good stuff.
Christy Sandoval's mural work is now featured at 5 different sites in the valley. Her public art can also be seen in cities around the country and even in Turkey. But for this valley girl, nothing beats art that beautifies and revitalizes your very own neighborhood. I'm Anna Marcos for LA This Week.
The mural Childhood can be found near the corner of San Fernando Road and Sunland Boulevard. Well, celebrate the Day of the Dead, get a behind-the-scenes peek at some of LA's most popular cultural destinations, and your favorite haunted hayride will have you running for cover. All this in this week's Things to Do. Hollywood Forever Cemetery brings to life the largest Day of the Dead celebration in California during its 17th annual Dia de los Muertos festival. The cemetery grounds are covered with art exhibitions, dance rituals, musical performances, children's arts and crafts projects, and food vendors aplenty. You'll see altars to the dead created by community artists, and you can either watch or participate in the skeleton costume contest. Join the fun on Saturday, October 29th at the Hollywood Forever Cemetery, located at 6000 Santa Monica Boulevard. For more, visit ladayofthedead.com. It's an all-access pass and day-long free event to some of the best of the arts, highlighting the art-centric stretch of Grand Avenue between Temple and 6th Streets. The Center Theater Group, LA Phil, the Music Center, the Broad, and the LA Public Library all open their doors for a truly one-of-a-kind experience. Take an inside look at rehearsals, architecture tours, museum exhibitions, performances, workshops, food and drinks for all to enjoy. So grab the whole crew to take a peek behind the scenes for the ultimate Los Angeles field trip. It all happens on Saturday, October 29th on Grand Avenue. For thrill seekers, check out Los Angeles Haunted Hayride. The famed Griffith Park attraction takes folks on a ride through the old zoo, where they'll face the underworld and portrayals of the 7 deadly sins. This year features a brand new theme, Secret Society. Inside the gates of the society, members will bear witness to the clandestine lives of their faction, and in a shocking turn, will be commandeered by the society and sent into an initiation, confronting the ghosts of Hayride's past on foot, face to face. That's right, for the first time ever, guests will leave the safety of the hay wagon. The adventure begins at 7 p.m. on October 28th. Visit LosAngelesHauntedHayride.com for more. And that's a look at some things to do. Well, that's going to do it for this edition. I'm Yana Kay, and from all of us here at LA This Week, thanks for joining us. A reminder that you can catch us online at lacityview.org. You can also follow and like us on Facebook. We'll see you back here next week for more of LA This Week.
Hi, I'm Kevin from Chatsworth, offering you a taste of New Orleans since 1986. You're watching LA City View, Channel 35. Our city, our channel.
Members, please report to the council chambers so that we can begin our work for today. Want to thank Mr. Bonin, Buscaino, Englander, Weezar, Martinez, O'Farrell, and Price for being today's members of the On-Time Caucus. Members, if you're in your office, please report to the council chambers. Anyway, good morning. Good morning to all. Today is Wednesday, October 26th. I want to welcome you to your Los Angeles City Council. This council meets every Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday at 10 a.m. Public is welcome. Mr. Clerk, we do. In fact, shh. If you could please take your seats so that we can begin our work for today. Mr. Clerk, why don't we go through the agenda? First order of business. Well, we have a quorum. Why don't you call a roll?
Very good, sir. Blumenfield, Bonin, Buscaino, Cedillo, Englander, Harris, Dawson, Weezer, Koretzker, Crane, Martinez, O'Farrell, Price, Rue, Wesson. 11 members present and a quorum, Mr. President.
Thank you. First order of business.
Approval of the minutes.
Okay, Mr. Price moves. Ms. Martinez seconds. Next.
Commendatory resolutions for approval.
Mr. Koretz moves, and Mr. Blumenfield seconds. That brings us where?
Mr. President, the Department of Building and Safety recommends that items 1A, C, D, G, H, I, J, L, N, O, and P be received and filed inasmuch as the liens have been paid in full.
Okay, so without objection on those items, that will be the order.
Mr. President, item 1 is an item notice for public hearing. We do have cards on that matter.
Okay, continue.
Very good, sir. Items 2 through 12 are items for which public hearings have been held. Committee reports for items 7 and 8 have been circulated and are before council for consideration. Further, there are requests to hold items 10, 11, and 12 on the desk.
Okay, well, let's also hold item 3 as well, and we can prepare to vote on the remaining items. Let's, Madam Clerk, open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote. 11 ayes.
Very good. Items 13 through 15 are items for which public hearings have not been held. Please note that there was a typographical error on item 15A. The street name should correctly read Broadway rather than Boardway. 10 votes are required for consideration.
Okay, so without objection, those items are now before this body. You have cards on items?
Yes, sir. Cards on all 3.
Okay, continue.
Mr. President, that takes council to presentations or items called special.
Thank you. Mr. O'Farrell?
President, items
2 and 9 forthwith.
Items 2 and 9 forthwith at Mr. O'Farrell's request. Mr. Koretz, would you like to begin your presentation? So then the floor is Mr. Koretz. Belongs to Mr. Koretz.
Good morning. Hello.
Thank you, Mr. President and colleagues. All too often, the debate of gun control falls by the wayside. We witness a horrific event in our society, we demand action, and nothing changes. Well, Women Against Gun Violence is an example of an organization that makes sure the conversation never stops, and more importantly, that action never stops. In the United States, 9 children a day are killed with guns, and more teens are killed by guns than in any other industrialized nation. 1.2 million elementary school kids have access to guns while home alone after school. And 68% of school shootings involve a gun brought from home. All these numbers are staggering, frightening, and devastating. Women Against Gun Violence has worked to prevent gun violence on the community level in Los Angeles for over 20 years, and through its strategic partnerships has achieved great success in legislative advocacy and implementing innovative community programs serving families, youth, children, and gun violence survivors. Their newest program, the TALK program, is in its 3rd year, and it's the only comprehensive gun violence prevention program in California, working with Los Angeles schools and parent associations to empower parents to protect their children by making the conversation about guns and safe gun storage routines and not making it adversarial or political. Through various programs, events, and educational endeavors, Talk Day targets gun violence, both intentional and accidental, using the letters T, A, L, and K to stand for key concepts. Parents and guardians are encouraged to talk with their kids about guns, ask family, friends, and neighbors if their guns are locked up, lock up their own guns safely and securely, and keep children and communities safe. With so many deaths and injuries being attributable to gun violence, the TALK program puts life-saving information in the hands of over 500,000 Southern California elementary school families. Printed materials available in Spanish and English that help parents and caregivers talk with their children about guns, and help parents and caregivers talk with their friends, neighbors, and family about guns and safe gun storage. Free gun locks are also distributed upon request. Such efforts can make a life or death difference for countless people and their families. And now I'd like to invite Councilmember Bonin to say a few words on this subject.
Thank you, Mr. Koretz, and thank you to our friends from Women Against Gun Violence for asking me to join you here today for the presentation. Colleagues, who among us really isn't still haunted by Orlando or by Sandy Hook or by any of the countless mass shootings that occur across this country? And who among us isn't frustrated that something has not been done legislatively, nationally, to address these issues? While we're waiting for action and while we still demand action, there is an organization, Women Against Gun Violence, which is taking small, significant, vital steps on the local, the neighborhood, the family, the home level to make a difference through education. For decades, we all know, we have had comprehensive campaigns for safety in schools on the subject of drug abuse, seatbelt safety, home fire safety, natural disasters such as earthquakes. We have classes in school for first aid. But noticeably absent is a universal curriculum covering the topic of firearm safety. This program that Mr. Koretz just described, the TALK program, could serve as a model and should serve as a model for integrating gun safety programs into public and private school curriculum throughout the United States. The program encourages common sense solutions as simple as locking up firearms, which would save countless lives. The TALK program, also acknowledges the realities of gun safety and that it's not only about preventing accidents, but also about preventing teen suicides and school shootings. 40% of teens involved in school shootings get their guns at home. While we wait for action at the national level, we continue to take the kind of local actions that Mr. Koretz and Mr. Krikorian are so strong at leading us on. And we can follow the example of Women Against Gun Violence and the TALK program, help spread the word about what they're doing, and help get it integrated into more and more curriculums so that at the very core element of society, at home and at school, kids can learn what they can do to help save lives. We have all seen a sea change over the past 20, 30 years about recycling. And I know of so many parents who get hectored into recycling because their 8-year-old or their 10-year-old will remind them or call them out when they're not doing what they're supposed to. A program like this, the TALK program, that teaches the elementals and the fundamentals of firearm safety is a great way of getting the word out in the families and in the home. So I just want to thank Women Against Gun Violence for what they're doing with the TALK program, and thank Mr. Koretz for this presentation.
Well, thank you, Mike. Now let's welcome Executive Director Margot Bennett and Women Against Gun Violence Board Member Lauren Lieb. Lauren's son, Josh, was shot at the North Valley Jewish Community Center in 1999. And as horrendous as that was, it's also a blessing that Josh survived and is now active in this movement and sits on the Women Against Gun Violence Board of Directors. So, Margot and Lauren.
Welcome, ladies. Please come forward and welcome.
Thank you, and thank you so much for acknowledging this important program. There can be no question that toddlers and firearms don't mix. Last year, toddlers found loaded guns and shot themselves or someone else an average of 1 time per week. So far this year, it's happening with even greater frequency, and about half of the injuries have been fatal. This year, toddlers have killed more people than terrorists. In Indiana, a 2-year-old boy found a gun and his mother left in her purse on the counter, and he fatally shot himself. A 2-year-old in Wisconsin fatally shot his mother when the gun that was under the seat of the car slid out and he found it. These incidents are completely preventable. Millions of children live in homes with easily accessible guns. About 1/3 of handguns are kept loaded and unlocked. An irresponsible, negligent gun owner is at fault whenever a child gets access to a loaded, unsecured firearm. Simply telling children about the dangers of guns isn't good enough. Gun owners must ensure that their guns don't become a danger to others. In California, there are fewer incidents of toddlers killing themselves and others, and that's thanks to our strong gun laws that we have in California, including a child access prevention law, and in the city of Los Angeles, a safe storage requirements. These measures are working to keep our children safer. The rest of the nation should examine what we're doing in California and Los Angeles because we're saving lives.
Thank you for declaring today the 3rd Annual Talk Day LA. Thank you for your encouragement to parents and caregivers here and across the nation to talk. In the last few months alone, Women Against Gun Violence has led talk workshops in health facilities, middle schools, and elementary schools. And through those efforts, we've taught over 130 families to talk, distributed over 750 talk brochures, which are available in English and Spanish, and now also in Armenian and Korean. And we've also given out over 165 free gun locks. I also want to take this opportunity to add my personal thanks to Councilmember Koretz, Bonin, and Rue for supporting our Suicide Prevention Summit, which we held a few weeks ago, because over 2/3 of gun deaths are suicides in the United States, and so many of those could have been prevented if gun owners had stored their guns correctly. So thank you very much.
Well, thank you, Mr. President. I don't know if there's anyone on the queue. If not, we will present the certificate that declares October 26th to be the 3rd Annual Talk Day in the City of Los Angeles and encourages everyone in Los Angeles to talk with their kids about guns, ask their family, friends, and neighbors if their guns are locked up, lock their own guns up safely and securely, and keep our children and communities safe. So today we declare Talk Day in the city of Los Angeles.
Oh, the visitor tag.
Okay, and again, thank you, Mr. Koretz and Mr. Bonin. At this point in time, we want to go into our multiple public comments section. Mr. John Walsh, items 1, 13, 14, 15, and public comment. You have 3 minutes on your items, 1 minute per item, and then your 1 minute for public comment. So, Mr. Walsh.
John Walsh, blogging at HollywoodHighlands.org or tweeting at JWalshConfidential. Building and safety, as we've said, nuisance abatements, you do a good job. Remember, I'm not one of these white guys who say, you're all a bunch of crooks. When you do a good job, I'm the first to congratulate you. Number 13. This is rent escrow. Again, you do a good job. Number 14. This is general plan amendments. You do a terrible job on plan amendments. When the neighborhood integrity motion is passed next year, this will stop all these amendments to put in conformance the developer's plans. This is all about amendments to take your home away from you or make it unlivable. And I just want all my fellow Jews to know they're moving west of La Brea now. They're going into your neighborhood. No more just the Schwarzes, your neighborhood. Ask somebody what Schwarzer means. Number 15, this is the final maps. This is what cements everything in place. So when you wake up and see they're tearing down the buildings west of La Brea to build a gigantic, huge development, as they've started now, they're starting one development. Remember, the fact that you're a Jew isn't going to help you anymore because they've taken out the blacks, they've taken out the Hispanics, and they're now going into the Jewish neighborhoods. I'd like to go to general public comment.
Go ahead.
Measure M is we want to vote for. And I want to say yesterday, a group of blacks and Hispanics peacefully protested at the meeting at the supervisors. And then they left. Then when they came back from recess, the Board of Supervisors banned the public from the meeting. We were not allowed to go into the boardroom. That's a violation of law. And that's Hilda Solis told the captain, ban everybody. And then they didn't even hold, on 22 and 23, they didn't hold the public comment, although they called for the public comment, didn't hold public comment. And then the last thing they did was not hold general public comment at the end of the meeting. This is, now you people are bad, but you people are not criminals. So we're going to Kamala Harris. We want the whole meeting canceled, everything they did. And remember, they're racist. They did it because of the protesters who were black and Hispanic.
Okay, Mr. Previn. Eric Previn, items 14, 15, and then you have your general public comment.
Thank you, sir. It is Eric Previn from CD2, and I detected that typographical error on item number 15, and don't have too much more to say on that, other than that it is about an $8,000 Quimby fee, which tells you something about the size of the property. The item 14, on the other hand, is the one I think I was just looking at. The one I was just looking at was item 15B, which is in, I believe it's Mr. Rue's district, CD4. It's an interesting little project. You got a 9,000 square foot piece of property, and obviously zoned R3-1. Now they want to put 6 independent little units on it. So they've moved it along, and I think that you're approving the track map now. For the record, this is at 1759 New Hampshire Avenue, just north of Hollywood Boulevard. I did not see any big pile of opposition. So this is what we call approved density something or other. So thank you, I suppose. Now, my general public comment, sir.
Alan, let's go to 1 minute for general.
Right, but don't talk during the time. Oh, thank you. Okay, so I appreciate that, sir. I have reached out as best I can to the mayor about the CD7 governance issues, and we will await to hear from him. As you know, on October 23rd in the Daily News, my brother and I wrote an article questioning that we do need somebody in that chair over there. It's a little vacant right now, as you can see, because Mr. Fuentes went to work for Apex in Sacramento, treasured partners on the lobbyist side, but not on the public side. So that is a big letdown for the 250,000 constituents. Now, in conclusion, I also have to draw attention to Rule 63 of your own rules, sir. This morning in public safety, it's very odd. We had a little non-quorum gathering. Mr. Englander then decided to pick among his public comment people who had signed up those he wanted to hear from. That may or may not be technically legal because there was no quorum, wasn't technically a Brown Act meeting, but it is completely offensive to the public because we should take comments from all the people, just like the Board of Supervisors need to do going forward and need to put on their agenda item 22 and 23 from yesterday.
Thank you, Mr. Previn. Thank you. So that ends. Mr. Previn, your time is up. Okay, that's the end of our multiple public comment section. Mr. Englander.
Thank you, Mr. President, colleagues. I've got a special class here that I would like to recognize students from CSUN, our future journalists here that are studying City Hall and city politics and policy. And so stand up, be recognized. They are from the Mike Curb College of Arts, Media, and Communication. But wait, there's more. They are here with Professor Kim, and let me just tell you a quick little bit about Professor Kim. This is phenomenal. He's trained as a media sociologist, and so what that means and what he's done in his primary research in interest include effects of corporate structure on editorial vigor, analysis of the global warming skeptics' disinformation campaign, and the system maintenance function of the Korean ethnic media during the 92 Los Angeles riots. Incredible in what he is not only trained but written about and studied and shared his wisdom with so many others, and now going on and teaching our future leaders and generations. So thank you for being here, Professor. We truly, truly appreciate it. It's an honor to have you in our presence. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President.
Let's give him a round. Okay, let's jump into item 14. Joel Miller, are you here, Mr. Miller? Joel Miller, item 14. Please come forward.
Good morning, Mr. President. My name is Joel Miller. I'm a land use consultant with SOMAS. I'm here just to answer any questions you might have about the motion that Councilmember Huizar would like to introduce for the general plan amendment.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay. There are no speakers on the queue on this item. Let us open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
13 ayes.
Okay, Mr. Clerk, now I'd like for us to vote on items 1, 13, and 15. No speakers on the queue. Okay, 1, 13, and 15. Sorry, Madam Clerk. Are we ready? Okay, let's prepare to vote on these items. Let's open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
13 ayes.
Now, I quickly want to jump back to general public comment and call up Sean Murphy and Oscar Mohammed. Sean, please come forward.
Good morning, Mr. President. Had a good time at the Taste of Soul. Hope they told you.
Yes.
We need to keep the sidewalks clean. Keep our libraries open. I would be careful who to vote for this election. I have never seen a campaign get this nasty in my 52 years of living. I think Mr. Trump will do a better job than Hillary Clinton. I'm sorry. I turned in the ballot 2 weeks ago. Thank you.
Thank you, Sean. Mr. Mohammed?
Well, we're living in the end times, though, and these people that are running for the president of the United States, I guess they're running to be who the most worst unqualified person to be. But anyway, politics dominates and controls and pimp the poor folks. Christianity dominates and controls and pimp the poor folks. But anyway, we see down on Skid Row too many white males and black men mixing downtown Skid Row. We should have some type of rules for the homeless on Skid Row. We should try to end the homeless on Skid Row. But it seems as though the United States of America have no respect for their minority outcasts. They have no regulation. We have no rules. But we should end that crucifixion of the homeless downtown Skid Row. We should end that holocaust of the homeless on downtown Skid Row. We should have a change in our government because we have a broken economic system and a broken political system.
Thank you, Mr. Mohammed. And to our city attorney, that concludes general public comment, so I'm closing that portion of the agenda. I now want to look for Mr. Cedillo. Gilbert? Let's move into your 3 items. Which order would you prefer?
I'm at your service, sir.
No, I'm at yours.
Let me get my eyes on.
We can go, and so what item? 10, 11, and 12. Well, let me make it easy for you.
12 is the Trump. Where's the 10, 11 are your propositions?
Give me my stuff. Item 12.
Okay, you want to go to 12 first?
Yes.
Okay.
Members, this is a very straightforward resolution. It was put forth, we put this forth in March. The State Senate, under the leadership of Kevin De Leon, was, as all of us have been throughout this year, repulsed by the campaign of Donald Trump. His conduct and his activities are well documented. We are now towards the end of a campaign in which the man has probably exceeded every candidate in the history of this nation with his xenophobia, his anti-immigrant sentiment, his homophobia, his attacks on the disabled. He has admitted to groping and assaulting and attacking women. He is a scourge of American politics and will go down as that. And we should be equally repulsed by his conduct, his behavior, and we should repudiate not him only at the ballot box, as we intend to do in 2 weeks, less than 2 weeks now, but also as a city, make a statement as a city, like the state has, in looking at our efforts to divest ourselves from his business and from his conduct. And so that's what this resolution does, and I ask for concurrence.
Thank you, Mr. Cedillo, for bringing that forward. I think it's appropriate that we, this council, stand up on this issue one way or the other. So with that said, Madam Clerk, let's open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
All right, that is approved. Okay, Mr. Cedillo, back to you.
I'm prepared to just move the other propositions without comment if that's
Okay,
the
so
will of the body.
So let's take up, we'll go with item 10 first. Item 10. So let's open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
11 ayes, 2 noes.
Now we'll go to item 11. Open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
11 ayes, 2 noes.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Cedillo. Okay, that is approved. I want to look to Mr. Krikorian at this time to see if you'd like to begin conversations on item 3.
Start with a comment if you'd like.
So would you like, we have some folk here you'd like to hear from?
It'd be appropriate to start with public comment.
Okay, so if I could get Mr. Holland, Samantha Beasley, Kevin Tamaki, Alex Davis, and Mr. Murphy. John, come forward.
And Mr. President.
Just hurdle it, John. You're in shape. Just hurdle it.
Amending motion 3C has been circulated.
Okay. Yes, sir.
Not as young as I used to be. Good morning. I'm John Howland with the Central City Association. The city needs a bold strategy to attract business to the city of Los Angeles. The Jobs Committee report is a good start because it lists multiple responsibilities with actions and reports back. But the committee and this council must keep departments accountable and be accountable for any failure to keep it moving forward. Furthermore, the city needs to invest in job creation and retention. Just as a business must invest to grow, the city needs to invest to bring new businesses here. This report is a start in identifying how the city plans to create this investment. By 2024, 20% of the 20% of the jobs will be in downtown. The city needs to create an infrastructure to prepare this workforce for the jobs that are available. And there needs to be a wide range of jobs that are available to everyone, be they a recent college grad, a person changing careers, or someone without a high school diploma. CCA recommends that you complete the stalled hotel incentive ordinance and use that incentive program as a template for other incentive packages for the types of businesses that the city is seeking to attract, and we look forward to working with you in the future.
Thank you. Samantha. Please come forward.
Good morning, council members. My name is Samantha Beasley, and I'm Director of Public Policy at the LA Area Chamber of Commerce. On behalf of our 1,650 members, I'm here this morning to support the Jobs Creation Plan. We're encouraged by the plan's focus on helping businesses navigate the city, enhancement of bid capacity and promoting public-private partnerships, efforts to attract and retain businesses, and attention to marketing city services and incentives to businesses in and outside of the area. We also look forward to the creation of a citywide economic development strategy. As our CEO, Gary Tobin, has commented previously, however, we remain concerned about the budgetary requirements that come with hiring an additional 5,000 city employees, and we believe that the efforts to facilitate that initiative should be removed from this plan. Nonetheless, Councilmember Krikorian, we appreciate your efforts and the efforts of your staff in spearheading this over the past year, and we look forward to the implementation of the plan as soon as possible. Thank you.
Thank you. Next.
Good morning, Council President Weston, council members. I'm Kevin Tamaki. I'm chairman of the Valley Industry and Commerce Association, or VICA, a group of over 400 businesses and nonprofits in the LA region. We strongly support the Comprehensive Jobs Program. I want to thank Councilmember Krikorian, the committee, and staff. We need jobs, and we need strong and viable businesses to create those jobs, and we need all of those yesterday. So let's get going, roll up our sleeves, and get to work on this. LA deserves a thoughtful yet bold comprehensive jobs policy. After all, that's what our city is all about. And VICA is here to be helpful, and we'll work with you to make it happen. Thank you.
Thank you. Alex, and I should say you were good last night up at Shadow hills. I was impressed.
Thank you, and good morning, council members. My name is Alex Davis. I'm with the Valley Industry and Commerce Association, VICA, and thank you for your time today. VICA has long advocated for the need of our comprehensive jobs plan, and we're excited that the council will be hearing the item today. Businesses continue to play an important role in the economic drive of the city, and we look forward to implementing the jobs plan. With your partnership, businesses and city officials can work together to implement this comprehensive plan. While there are many important provisions in this plan, we cannot afford to go forward quietly. This is a time that requires bold action and bold leadership, and we look forward to working with you as this gets implemented. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Sean, Mr. Murphy? Sean Murphy? I think Sean has stepped out. Let's... Now I will defer to Mr. Krikorian. In fact, Mr. Krikorian, before you start, I do want to thank you very much for all of the work. Thank you for the way that you structured the meetings and organized everything. It was a very effective process. I think that I have to highlight the engagement of Mr. Curran Price and Mr. Blumenfield throughout the whole process, and mention Mr. Englander, and to let you know that it was an honor and a pleasure to be part of that committee with you. But it's a great start. It is more than what I had expected in the very beginning. So thank you for your person's work done on this item. Members, let's give Mr. Krikorian a round of applause because he does deserve it.
I hate that. Thank you. Thank you.
With that said, the floor is yours, sir.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Thank you for those kind words. Members, what you have before you is the work product that began last July of 2015. When the council president had the foresight and vision and focus to realize that we needed to have a sustained, focused, meaningful, and effective effort in this city to create new jobs. And we've had a dozen meetings over the course of those 15 months. We've taken stakeholder input from throughout the business community, from labor, from every sector of our economy, and we've produced over 30 different recommendations that you now have before you, and we'll be proceeding to talk about those in a moment. I want to start just by saying first, though, that we need to take one step back and realize that LA is kind of on a roll, and we ought to not miss the fact that things are going really well in Los Angeles right now. In the last decade, we've cut the unemployment rate here in half. Every economic indicator in terms of the city's revenues, all of our economy-sensitive revenues are all up. Sales tax, gross receipts tax, temporary occupancy tax, utility users tax, all have been trending upward. And when you look around town, you see the reasons why. If you look downtown, we see cranes in the air. We see people with real money from around the world who are investing in the future of Los Angeles because they see this as a place of great opportunity. At the same time, though, we have to also be mindful of the fact that this has been a slow and painful recovery. It has not touched all parts of our city. It has not touched all Angelenos. And our unemployment rate is still too high. We still have gross wage inequity. We have too little opportunity in too many parts of Los Angeles. And that's part of what we're trying to address today. But the other thing that's important about this is this economic recovery is not going to go on forever. We will have another downturn. It's inevitable. We need to be situated when that comes to be competitive with the other cities around us, with the rest of the country, to continue to be able to attract business here and to create new jobs. And so that's what the plan before you is intended to do. So as I see it, there's kind of three ways that the city government is really involved in jobs creation. One, and probably most important, is the city needs to get out of the way. Too often, our businesses, our entrepreneurs, investors here want to do things that will create jobs, want to do things that will create economic activity, more revenues for the city, and really impact people's lives positively. But then they get mired into the morass of regulations, the Byzantine approval process that we have in Los Angeles, and very often those efforts get frustrated. And frankly, sometimes the policies of this council are made without sufficient input from our business community to know how those policies may affect growth and economic development. So that's one, getting out of the way. Two, we have an opportunity to directly create stimulus in a variety of different ways. Now, we no longer have the CRA to do that, but there's a lot of other things that we are doing and can continue to do to affirmatively create stimulus and to attract new businesses and to create more activity. And then third, we are an employer. We're a big employer. We're one of the biggest employers in Los Angeles. And as we continue to restore services back to the city, we have an opportunity to play a role directly in employing people in Los Angeles and giving them a path to careers. So let me just go over, if I may, Mr. President, I'm sorry, my time's going to run over, but I just
go ahead.
To go over some of the highlights of this and then open it up for discussion. So in the first category of getting out of the way, I'm going to identify some of the problems that we've all heard about and then talk about how this report addresses them. First of all, every single one of us has gotten those calls from usually a small business, but from any kind of a business person or an investor in our district who says, we just can't figure out how to get to the right door with the right person behind it to give us the approval for this project. You go through 8 different offices, you get conflicting answers, you can't find what the regulation is. We see it every day. So we've had success in the past in addressing that problem. For example, under the Reardon administration with the mayor's business team. That was a very successful effort, but it wasn't maintained because it wasn't institutionalized. It was just something that the mayor and his staff did. Mayor left, mayors come and go, and that went with him. So this proposal before you would create a permanent business advancement team, which will serve as a one-stop shop, concierge service for businesses who need that kind of hand-holding, need the help to get through the morass of regulations and so on. That will reside in the Economic and Workforce Development Department. So it will become a permanent part of this city, not something that's politicized by a mayor or by council. Second, businesses often feel that they don't have any way to provide direct input to what we do in our policy making. They come here, you saw the people who came and testified, we see them a lot, but there's no ongoing way to provide input in shaping our policy. So the recommendations before you would create, for the first time, a small business commission made up of small business people and others who can advise us on important policies that impact businesses. Third, oftentimes businesses who want to invest, for example, in a development project, find that they get approval, they are proceeding forward, and then we change the amount of permit fees that are required, or it takes too long to get their CUPs approved, and the landscape is changed in that amount of time. So the recommendations before you would include locking in business permit fees so that when the application is complete, the business has the certainty of knowing they can proceed without having the rug pulled out from them, as is so often the case now. Now, in the area of creating stimulus, one of the things that we found in this work is how much we're already doing that businesses don't know about. And at the city level, but also county, state, and otherwise, there's a tremendous number of incentives for new business and business growth that are already available right now that businesses don't even know about. So one of the things that we have done is created a small business portal which will provide that information, make it readily available, and also provide a vehicle through which businesses can get the information that they need to comply with our laws and to take advantage of those incentives. We also see, as I've said before, that there are many parts of the city who are not seeing the kind of economic growth that we want to stimulate citywide. So we have created in these recommendations a new kind of, if you will, community redevelopment opportunity with business incentive zones, which we're calling Jobs and Economic Development Incentive Zones, or JEDI zones, which will provide specific targeted benefits to businesses that site and create jobs in areas of the city that have not received the same advantages that others have in terms of our growth and jobs creation. Finally, in addition on the subject of creating stimulus, the city spends a tremendous amount of money every year on procurement. The vast majority of that money goes outside of Los Angeles. And we've addressed this before with the local preference ordinance that we passed a number of years ago. But still, even with that, far too much of the $1 billion or so we spend on procurement every year goes outside of Los Angeles, even outside of California. So we've started to work on improving the local preference. We've started to work with these recommendations on reforming the procurement process, especially so that it's easier for small businesses to do business with the city by increasing the floor, for example, for competitive bidding from $25,000 to $100,000. So on small contracts, small businesses can participate, making it easier for businesses to get certified, especially small businesses, so they don't have to continue to go through that laborious process. There's a number of other steps that we can take to make it easier to streamline doing business with Los Angeles, and that's going to help our small and disadvantaged businesses significantly. And then finally, the city has a lot of resources that can be used for economic development, including real estate that's just sitting unused right now. And all of you probably have shared the same frustration that I've had since the day I walked into this building, which is that we haven't seemed to be able to get a handle on what is available out there to be used. I mean, I'm sure you've all had the experience of asking, can I please get a list of all of the real estate that the city owns in my district? And you scratch your head when you're told, well, there's not really a comprehensive list. It's mind-boggling. Well, now there is. And we're going to be able to use that list, make it public, publicize it to the business world and to others so that the resources that we do have available will be able to be used for economic development and job creation purposes. And then finally, as an employer, I'm very pleased that former council member Jackie Goldberg is here because she's been spearheading this effort to use the current track that we're on to start restoring government services, to rehire or start hiring up to 5,000 new positions, to use that opportunity as a unique way to take the hardest to hire Angelenos, people who are currently sleeping on our sidewalks, and giving them an opportunity to actually gain employment with the city, to learn job skills, to become employable so that eventually they'll not be sleeping on our sidewalks, they'll be fixing our sidewalks and otherwise going to work for the benefit of the people of Los Angeles and taking control of their own lives as well. So that's a little bit of an overview. There's obviously 30 recommendations. I'm not going to go through them all, but you do have a summary of them in this handout that's before you. And Mr. President, I'd like to now present it for debate. If there's any questions or discussion that people would want to have, and then I'll come back and wrap
okay.
it up.
Well, let me call on Mr. Cedillo.
They'll find out soon,
Or Mr. Koretz. Mr. Koretz. Maybe Cedillo's was a electronic fupa or something.
That was, sir, that was from before. I wanted to acknowledge the esteemed councilman from my district, Ed Reyes, who was here, and I wanted to make sure we acknowledged him and mentioned all his great work with my office.
Well, we want to thank Ed for all of his service. So, Mr. Koretz, the floor is yours.
Thank you, and I'm so excited we're moving forward with this, and I thank Mr. Krikorian, Ms. Martinez, and everyone else that was involved. I did something like this 25 years ago in West Hollywood. when we actually had a worse process than Los Angeles, and we were told that by developers who used that to kind of beat us over the head. We changed that by doing some of the things that we need to do here to streamline the process of permitting and development. We created a checklist so we wouldn't have people coming back after they had been told to do 3 things and then be told to do 3 more things and then be told to do a couple more. So they'd know everything they had to do up front. We created a one-stop shop. We had the same person or an effort to have the same person staffing a project from start to end. And I think it really created a very successful business community in West Hollywood, and one that has been so revenue successful that it has over a year's full budget in its reserves. I think this will help us move in that same direction. We've taken good steps, though, since I've been here, but they're very ad hoc and haphazard. So we'll make a little progress here and a little progress there, but we never had this very focused process to identify every step we really need to take. So I think when I first got here, it took a year and a half to get a restaurant permitted. Now I think it takes around 9 months, which is a big improvement, but I still will occasionally see a sign that says for lease, and it says leased. Then you wait for the restaurant to go in, then it says for lease again because the people ran out of money while they were going through our slow process. Beverly Hills has a goal which they usually achieve of 70 days for their restaurants to get permitted. And so there are steps that clearly we could take to emulate that. Now, I have a predecessor of the idea of having a business commission. I have my own advisory committee that I meet with quarterly on business issues, and it's very helpful. And occasionally they've suggested things to streamline the process. But again, it's been very ad hoc, so we've pushed one item here or there. The city really has needed to do this for probably for decades. And this is a huge change and a huge positive step. And I want constituents who are for slower growth to understand this doesn't mean more development. It just means a faster process. So it's not going to create situations where things that would have not passed are going to pass now. But there's no advantage to having a restaurant take 9 months instead of 3 months to go in. There's no advantage to other businesses having that same difficulty. So we will make considerably more revenue because we will have businesses that go in earlier. So I think that some of the things that we need to do, including in the budget process, I hear that some places are actually more backed up than they've been in the past. We need to increase our spending on people in planning and building and safety so we actually can keep up. That's a step we can take. But I think this is one of the biggest win-wins the city has ever seen. And this will solve a lot of problems that we've been hearing for all the years each of us have been here. And I've been hearing just as an observer for decades. So I am so thrilled, and I think this is going to be one of the most significant steps Los Angeles has taken to advantage ourselves and make ourselves a city with a stronger economy and a more business-friendly approach.
Thank you, Mr. Koretz. Mr. Huizar.
Thank you, Mr. President. I want to thank Mr. Krikorian for all the hard work and the committee members, and thank you, Mr. President, for having the foresight to start this committee, given that the state has cut back on the community redevelopment agencies throughout the state and also cut back on enterprise zones and other economic development tools that local governments had for economic development. And so local governments now are left on their own devices to come up with some innovative tools to make that happen. And I want to just point out one thing that I think areas that have been in need of great attention or investment in the past I think that could fully take advantage of. And those are the JEDI zones and the concept that come with that. And one of the areas that USC and Cal State LA has been looking at for a long time is what's called the Biomed Corridor, or the Biosciences Corridor on Valley Boulevard in El Sereno. It's been waiting for something like this from the city. There's been a lot of talk about how do we kickstart this, what do we do, what can the city do. When the project areas existed for the CRAs, the county version and our version, we combined them, and we thought that was going to allow us to then move forward. But when that was taken away, it's kind of been left out in the open. So I think that area plus other areas in the cities could certainly take advantage of the JEDI zones. And so I want to commend all the work that's been happening here to get us to this place. And I think, with where the economy is right now, as Mr. Krikorian started off saying, the indicators are showing that we're doing fairly well, but this is not going to last forever. And as we begin to slow down even more, we hope, and I would hope that we have many of these tools in place now, so that when we could be prepared when more people in need are going to be looking for jobs, and more people in need, community is going to be looking for investment as well. So there's a lot of activity for the Valley Corridor, Biomed Corridor, and we hope that we could offer that one up for one of the JEDI zones as a pilot or anything else as we move forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Now I'd like to call on one of the members from the Ad Hoc Committee on Jobs, Mr. Curran Price.
Thank you, Mr. President. I, too, want to just thank Councilman Krikorian for his leadership in this effort. I was pleased to be on the committee with other colleagues. And again, just really underscored the importance of businesses, small businesses in our community. In my district office, we created a business resource center as a resource for small businesses, for employers, so they don't have to traipse all the way downtown, that they can get access to information, be available in ways that making information more available. And that was the message I think that we got from this report, is that we got to communicate better. We got to convey information better, both within the governmental family, be it the local, county, state, Fed. Then we also must be able to communicate and serve our businesses in ways that we haven't before in the private sector. So I'm pleased that we're talking about creating a business council. I think that's going to be a way of expanding the discussion and communication. We need to get more people at that table. I think we need to be engaging the ethnic and specialty chambers in ways that we haven't, to both inform them of programs that we have and to encourage them to become assets and providers in the community. So we've certainly continue to take a hard look at local preference. We want to see how we work that. We need to continue to take a look at contracting, local procurement, how we make sure that local businesses are getting a piece of this expanded pie. That's really an economic resource. And to the extent we can direct hiring, I think we should be doing that, to providing incentives, encouraging local individuals and residents to be employed. So this is a great start. It's a template, I think, that we can use across the board. I think we had great input from a number of constituencies, individuals, organizations that are on the ground, that are committed, and that understand that we need to work together if we're serious about making some changes. So thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Price. And Mr. Cedillo, I may have missed it. We announced that we had a former colleague, Ed Reyes, here. We also have former council member Jackie Goldberg here. Could we give Jackie a round of applause? With that said, Mr. Harris Dawson.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chair and members. I just want to rise and give a big congratulations and acknowledgement about how thrilled I am about this report to Mr. Krikorian and the Jobs Committee. It hit on almost every note that we've been concerned about for several months. A couple that I'll call out here that are a big, big deal, and I just want the public that's listening to know: the digitizing of all certifications possible for the City of Los Angeles. I will tell you, as somebody who was an employer before being on the council, the number of pieces of paper that you had to fill out that you were a minority contractor made me not want to apply for minority contracting privileges. And so I said, can I just go down there and show them that I am a minority? Like, why do I have to fill out 8 pieces of paper every time? So digitizing these and making them so that a city department or whoever's looking at contracts can look on the internet and look at these documents and verify them, that I cannot express to you how much that changes day-to-day life in a small outfit where you're really making decisions about, do I spend my time doing this or do I spend my time doing that? It's a huge difference that it can make in businesses, particularly very, very small outfits and family outfits. The other one is procurement. One of the big complaints that we hear a lot, and I think this report begins to look at it, is LA businesses sometimes feel like they're at a disadvantage because they have stricter regulations, higher wages, and higher taxes because they're in LA, and then they're caused to compete on a price basis with businesses in other jurisdictions that have lower taxes and lower regulations, and lo and behold, they come in with a lower price. And so this gives us an opportunity to take a really hard look at that and see if, in fact, our bottom line isn't a little bit off-center or disadvantages our businesses. And then the last one is local hire. I mean, no single entity is going to, except for maybe MTA, should we be successful with Measure M, nobody's going to hire 5,000 people in the amount of time that the city of LA is talking about doing it. I was a little bit disappointed at the Chamber. Last week, the Chamber came in and reported the 8th District was the only district that had a loss in jobs in the last year. Well, it turns out one of the main employers of people in the 8th District is the city of Los Angeles. And so we really need to make sure those jobs come online. Districts like the 8th District, the 6th, 7th, and 10th, we really, really rely on public sector employment. And what public sector employment does is it gives people jobs and they come back to their neighborhoods and they spend it in local small businesses, right? So it helps the private sector when the public sector is healthy, when we have both good city services and when we have residents working jobs with high wages and benefits and retirement. So again, thank you all so much for this report. It's great to see that this level of work comes from our colleagues, and I think the city of Los Angeles has a lot to look forward to.
Thank you. And now another member of the ad hoc committee, Mr. Englander.
Every year, there's a report that comes out that says the city of Los Angeles is the most unfriendly city to do business with. Every year, we're number one. The toughest regulations, draconian and archaic rules. This changes that. This puts a sign out on City Hall that says we are open for business. That's what this does. It was Mr. Krikorian, your leadership that is making a lot of this happen, and we really appreciate it. These are things that I care a lot about as a former small business owner in the city of Los Angeles. I know what that red tape is like firsthand, and not only working with the local businesses, certainly in my district, but even those citywide that all run into problems. Often we get calls because we just know somebody or somebody knows somebody in another council district. And the first thing I do is go right directly over to that council member and say, please call them directly. They want to open up a business here in Los Angeles. They're going to employ people. Let's get them open. And you guys jump on it right away. Imagine if every department had that philosophy. And this will get us there, and it helps. The Jedi zones, Mr. Huizar said that the state has cut back on these programs. They haven't cut back. They cut them out completely. They're gone. And so this brings it back here in Los Angeles. This is what we desperately need, and it creates sectors like biotech, which is the fastest growing economic engine in the state of California as an industry and the slowest growing here in Los Angeles. We graduate 5,000 biotech engineers out of our local colleges here, and roughly 300 a year stay in Los Angeles, and the other 4,700 move to San Francisco and San Diego. That's criminal. We're educating them, and then we export them. We need to keep them here. In terms of doing business with the city, local, and this was mentioned quite a few times, and I think Mr. Harris Dawson said it best. Local hiring is so important in each one of our communities and what it brings back. The local preference incentive is misleading. And so I'm going to ask, if I could, Mr. Krikorian, for a friendly amendment that we simply ask the CLA and the CAO and request the city attorney to come back with what it would change, what it would take to change the word local in our charter, because local is defined right now in our charter means the county of Los Angeles, not the city of Los Angeles. So what happens then? This is really important. What happens then when a business in the county, which is great and good for them, wants to do business in the city? Those aren't local jobs, and it's not local money coming back to our communities and our neighborhoods. So we need to look at that. The world's changed since that definition was written 100 years ago. We've changed in population. We've even changed geographically. We've expanded the city since that terminology came into play, so we need to change it and update it. And that's draconian and archaic. There's one other friendly amendment, Mr. Krikorian, I'd like to ask as well, if I could. And that is simply that, let me frame it, that we look back. One of the things you mentioned is digitization, and that we're going to digitize. And Mr. Harris Dawson actually really spoke well on this too, and this is a friendly amendment, so if you could just give me a little time to spell it out, I'll be quick. If we digitize, if you're a minority business, and you put that online because there's too much paper to fill out. Well, there's another step that should be digitized as well, and a certification that goes along with it that I would ask a report back on. These are just report backs to see if we can do them. Is that every time you place a bid in Los Angeles for procurement, you have to refill out the entire package. Even if it were digital, you have to refill out the entire package. You should be able to sign one letter under penalty of perjury that nothing's changed in the last year or 2 years, and that your certification is good for so long. And so I'd ask if we could just come back with, can they add that to the digitization is incorporated? So I appreciate that, because I know we brought it up in various committee meetings. I couldn't find it in here, so we did catch it. Excellent. So I'll stick with my one, if I could, then, and ask if that can come back and we can look at the definition of local, and we get report back on what it would take to change it, and if we should change it, and then we can have that discussion. Thank you so much.
Okay, and now I'd like to go to the other member of ad hoc committee, Mr. Bob Blumenfield.
Thank you, Mr. President. First off, I want to echo the sentiment of gratitude for Mr. Krikorian and the other members of the committee. We worked hard on this. A lot of what we're doing here has to do with basically moving into the 21st century, the digitization, trying to get the efficiencies involved with technology, whether it's the subscription capability or getting the surplus properties all onto one website. There are advantages that we can and should take advantage of. But the other thing I want to say about this, which is, and every part of this is great, and I'm 100% behind it and was part of putting it together. This is the beginning. This is, and sometimes that's the hardest part of when you're trying to get the ball rolling, is that activation energy to move something forward. But we need to take the momentum of this and get the follow-through done, because all of these things, if we don't follow through on them, they won't amount to anything. When we talk about, one of these things is looking at the subvention policies, which is great. We need to do that. And that's called out. But we've got to now get these report backs and follow through on that. About the bid awareness, we've got to get those reports and follow through. So this is an amazing document and the product of a lot of hard work. But I want us all to be aware that it's not a one and done, that this is about capturing the momentum that was put forward by this committee and following through on each and every one of these 34 items, because that is ultimately how we're going to get to the place of LA being open for business and putting that welcome sign on that we all want to be on this city. We want LA to be a magnet. It is a magnet already. We want it just to be a stronger magnet. And so I couldn't be more proud to be on the committee and to have worked with all of you on this. And I thank you Mr. President, for allowing me to be on that committee. But most importantly, I look forward to redoubling our efforts as we move forward and following through on the ideas that are put forward here. Thank you.
Mr. Cedillo.
Echo everybody's comments, but three points. There's a little challenge here when we talk about digitization, because I know when we say digitization, easy for you to say, that some of our unions hear job loss. And so we have to include them in this process, because we can't say, let's make it digital and more efficient and more effective, and that we want to do that, and yet we want to protect city jobs in the city of Los Angeles. And those city jobs are important. The ripple effect is 2.5 times every city job that's in your neighborhood. That means somebody's shopping at the local restaurant, somebody's going to the local cleaners, somebody's investing in the community. And so those city jobs, those county jobs, those state jobs are very, very critical, particularly to the communities that we represent. So it's important that the unions are involved in this process, because they can play a very constructive and positive role. They don't have to be simply objecting, but they could actually help lead us in the direction that helps us create greater efficiencies for the community and greater job creation, but different jobs. So that's one. The second that drives me crazy is procurement. Procurement drives me crazy because I think it's around $8.5 billion that the city spends annually. That is huge. What that would mean to local businesses is tremendous. Let me give you an example. We have this nice little tap card. We had something called Latino Heritage Month, and one of the things that we presented was this little tap card so everybody could show this off. This is made in Singapore. Can you believe that? This Latino Heritage tap card that we're using is made in Singapore. That's why we had trouble getting them and accessing them. Now, I know a printer that I use in Mr. Huizar's district that would have loved getting the contract for this. But no, instead, we go to Singapore. And I'm sure Singapore is a great place to visit, but it's probably not the first place we would want to be doing business in terms of printing and procurement. And so that drives me crazy, because there are businesses, small, medium, and large, in our communities that could utilize and provide services to the city for which we would benefit, and for which then they could hire more people, they could spend more money locally, and they could continue to make a greater impact, net positive, on our districts and on our city. And with that, Mr. President, I want to close my comments, but before I do that, I wanted to acknowledge from my staff, Luis Gonzalez, who was on the floor with his wife, who he met in my office when we worked in the Senate, Daniela, and their new baby, Mia Gonzalez. So a new addition to Team Cedillo. I don't know where they're...
Well, your team is just growing in leaps and bounds.
It is growing, let me tell you. So.
Maybe they're headed to Singapore to talk about...
Let's go look for something to buy. Thank you, Mr. President.
Okay. Let me just say this, and then Mr. Krikorian, I will ask you to close. But, members, let me remind you that on July 1st, 2015, that we on this council committed to tackle some very serious issues. This council, against suggestions from wise political pundits, decided to tackle homelessness. Because of the great work of Mr. Marquise Harris Dawson and Mr. Huizar, we now have a comprehensive plan to deal with homelessness, plus a ballot initiative. We also thought that it was important that this body look for ways to generate additional resources, additional revenue. That's going on in Mr. Huizar's committee, Mr. Krikorian's committee, Mr. Price's committee. When you look at Airbnb and billboards and a variety of other things. Also, we committed that it was time to have a serious conversation on race And now this city is embarked on that along with our Human Relations Commission. We also felt that it was time that we gave Ms. Nuri Martinez the support that she needed to deal with sex trafficking. And now she has created a task force in the Valley to deal with this very issue, and she's trying to take it citywide. And then also on July 1st, 2015, this council committed to put in place a jobs plan, a comprehensive jobs plan. And thanks to Mr. Krikorian and the members of the committee, that has been accomplished. Sure, this is the first step or two. There's more work to do. But I just want to highlight the fact to each and every one of you that we are a big city and we do big things. And this city council keeps its promises. And I am darn proud to serve with each and every one of you. With that said, Mr. Krikorian, great work, and you can close.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. And Mr. Cedillo, you're killing me with the TAP card, man. You're just killing me with that. It's an issue that I'll have to take up with the Metro Board, I can see. First of all, Mr. President, I wanted to thank all of my colleagues for your wise and kind words. Mr. Englander and Mr. Blumenfield both touched on the point that we, year in and year out, have a discussion in this council. Mayors, come and go, and they say the same thing. There's always this commitment that, well, LA's business unfriendly, but we're going to change that. We're going to become more friendly to business. And after that slogan is said, that's kind of the end of it. And the harder part of that is getting into the weeds of what that means and how do you fix it and how do you get your hands dirty in changing specific things that will be impactful and helpful. And that's really what this report is. And Mr. Blumenfield's right. This is certainly not the end of the discussion. This is only the first step, and in fact, it will fail if we don't make a sustained commitment to it. And so a lot of what we've done in these recommendations is intended to institutionalize things and make them permanent so that we don't have to, muster the political will to keep it going. It'll just keep on going as a new philosophy of this city. And so it's a first step. It's an important step. We all have to maintain the same kind of commitment that we've all expressed today to ensure that it continues to succeed. And with that, Mr. President, as I close, I do want to first thank you. As you said, in July of last year, you set out a very bold agenda for this council, and I was proud that this was a part of that agenda and that we've come to this point. So thank you for giving us that opportunity and for serving on the committee. I also want to thank Mr. Price and the chair of our Economic Development Committee for his service and also his work on this within his own committee, Mr. Blumenfield, Mr. Englander, and all of their staffs. Everybody really pitched in and worked hard on this, and it shows just in the volume of work that we did. Actually, before I move any further, Mr. Englander, because you raised some friendly amendments, those certainly are immensely friendly, and I think they're so friendly that if they are not already included, they should have been. So either they're already in there or they will be as a friendly amendment. That's fine. I also want to thank the CLA's office for their great work as well, led by Sharon So, of course. Ivania Sobelvaro, John Wickham, and Dora Huerta worked very, very hard for a year and a half on this, and the hard work really showed. The general manager of EWDD, Jan Perry, is here with us. I want to thank Ms. Perry and her staff as well. And then most of all, I want to thank Anna Hovasapian, who is my advisor on business issues, who's really taken the laboring oar on this for a year and a half and really done a magnificent job. So, and then with that, I'd ask for your aye vote.
Thank you, and you should also indicate that John Holland came to every meeting.
Yes, he did.
Yeah, he needs to get a life, but he was at every meeting. All right, let's prepare to vote on this issue. Let's open the roll. Oh, no, I'm sorry, Mr. Clerk, did you need to say something?
Pardon me, sir, just that before council are the ad hoc on Comprehensive Job Creation Plan Committee report, the Economic Development Committee report, as well as amending motions from Councilmember Krikorian and Councilmember England.
All right, so let's try that again. Let's open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
13 ayes.
Okay, what is before this body, Mr. Clerk?
Mr. President, Council has motions for posting and referral.
Okay, now, Ms. Richardson, I see you, and I don't see Ms. Autry, but Ms. Richardson, I want you to hear me. No, hear me. You can start walking, but I want you to hear me. We take general public comment now at the beginning of our meetings. So I closed general public comment. That is a new policy, and since it's new, I'm going to let you come up and give you your minute for today, but know that this is a new policy, and now general public comment we take at the beginning of our council meetings. So you need to be here to submit your cards earlier. I do not see Ms. Autry. She submitted a card as well. So Ms. Richardson, now you have your opportunity for general public comment. Yes, ma'am.
In nearby zip codes very close to here, you'll see various white girls, black girls, and different stages of pregnancy. Every now and then, once every 2 or 3 years, somebody will say, "Tell for us, we don't like this." This girl said she didn't want to get pregnant and she's not married. You can also see, if you look in nearby zip codes, women walking up and down the street in various stages of pregnancy. These are not bad girls. They're nice girls. Some of them look like they're virgins and look like they're ready to drop babies. The preachers and the Christian priests and Jewish preachers or priests must not have addressed this issue because it wouldn't be so widespread. They're walking right out in the open, hitting out in the open, and I'm sure they don't like that. Some of those girls look like they're virgins. I was at one store, I saw 4 pregnant girls walking around in one of these little stores, and I saw about 2 white girls at different...
Thank you. Now, that closes general public comment. And I neglected to say that where it relates to the council's work on race, Mr. Mitch O'Farrell has been more than a partner. He's been an equal partner. In fact, Mr. O'Farrell and I will be visiting Channel 7 today, I believe, Mitch, to have our first conversation about this. I believe we will be at Channel 7. So I want to thank Mr. O'Farrell for all of the work that he's done on this item. So with that said, everything is posted and referred. Do we have announcements? Announcements, members? If not, if all would please rise. Please rise. Please rise for adjourning motions. I'll go to my right side. That's Mr. Koretz. We'll start with you. In fact, one say, is this an announcement, Mr. Cedillo? You go first.
We are doing, we put across the desk earlier, Juan Gabriel Day today. He died a few weeks ago, an extraordinary musician, world known, over 100 million records sold during his life. He brought a tremendous sadness to the entire Southern California and the entire, Mexico, South, North, Spain. Just one of the most prolific performers. A combination of Frank Sinatra and Michael Bublé and any other great singer you can imagine. And today we're proclaiming Juan Gabriel Day, and across we will be outside with a group of people, and then tomorrow there'll be a series of events at the in Mr. Huizar's district, the Centro de Cultura y Arte, the Center for Culture and Art, will have performances for him. So that's today at 11:30. We'll be proclaiming that and announcing that.
Thank you, Mr. Cedillo. Back to you, Mr. Koretz.
Thank you, Mr. President. In the last few weeks, Los Angeles' Jewish community have lost a couple giants. First of all, a few weeks ago, we lost a tremendous leader, of the LA Jewish community with the passing of Charles Boxenbaum at age 87. Born in New York City, where he was raised during the Great Depression, he graduated from the University of Chicago and lived in a kibbutz in the newly founded state of Israel, where he became a founding member of the kibbutz Gesher Haviz in the Western Galilee. He served in the Korean War as a member of our armed forces and then moved out here, where he founded the mortgage brokerage and banking firm National Partnership Investment Corp. And became one of the founders and directors of First Los Angeles Bank, which is now City National Bank. Along with his wife Charlene and their son Scott, he was greatly involved in philanthropic endeavors. He was the chairman of the Jewish Federation of Greater Los Angeles in 1989 and 1990 annual campaigns, and he and his family strongly supported the Jewish Community Foundation and had leadership roles in it. Crossroads School for the Arts and Sciences and H. Los Angeles were among many other key causes, and in 2002, Charles, Charlene, and Scott were the benefactors responsible for the Boxenbaum HLA Jewish Educational Outreach Center in Los Angeles. He was beloved for his integrity, courage, and charitable ways, and will be much missed, and he is survived by his wife Charlene, son Scott, and brother Louis. We also, a few days ago, lost Ozzie Gorin, who passed away on October 15th at the age of 94, and was also a member of what journalist Tom Brokaw called the greatest generation, individuals who grew up during the Great Depression and went on to fight for our country in World War II. Ozzie was born in the Bronx. After graduating from Hofstra College in 1942, he enlisted in the Army Air Corps and served as a navigator and bombardier. And during that grim time of World War II, he was still able to find the joyous opportunity to marry his beloved wife of the past 72 years, Dorothy. And after the war, they moved to Los Angeles in 1946 and had 3 children. Ozzie was a remarkable businessman, excelling in furniture, law, real estate, and agriculture, but he was also a devoted philanthropist and exemplary civic patriot. He was a great leader in the Jewish community, having served as the general campaign chair, Federation president as chair, and board member of countless committees, boards, and meetings, including helping to oversee many Federation missions to Israel. For a dozen years, he also chaired the California Fair Employment and Housing Commission, and additionally, for nearly 6 decades, he was incredibly involved with the LA Head Start program, including by donating 1,000 Christmas dinners to underprivileged families. He was an exemplary representative of the greatest generation because he fought in World War II to protect our nation and humanity, but he also gladdened the world through his good deeds. He's survived by his wife Dorothy and children and their spouses, Jerry and Julia, Carol and Rob, Bruce and Susie, as well as 14 grandchildren, 9 great-grandchildren, and 2 more on the way. And both of them will be greatly missed.
Thank you, Mr. Koretz. I'm continuing. Mr. Price?
Thank you, Mr. President. Members, I ask that we adjourn in the memory of Larry Davis, also known as Sonny. He was born in Atlanta, Georgia, on February the 22nd of 1949. In '69, Larry was drafted into the U.S. Army, where he served his country as a marksman, guarding U.S. missiles with his M14 rifle. While serving his country, he received a variety of commendations and medals, including a certificate of appreciation signed by President Richard Nixon. Larry later moved to Los Angeles to pursue a career in construction. He worked on various residential commercial buildings in Los Angeles County and surrounding cities. There was nothing he couldn't build. He enjoyed his work and left his creative touch on everything he came in contact with. While in Los Angeles, Larry met and married the love of his life, Janice Davis, and together they raised 3 children. Larry truly loved his wife and children and enjoyed the company of his brothers and sisters and friends. He was a kind, loving, creative man, never bragged about his accomplishments, didn't indulge in gossip. He was a principled man, one you would be proud to be next to, and to be filled with joy all around. His spirit will live through all who knew and loved him. Larry leaves behind wife of 38 years, Janice Davis, his 3 children, Mark Wilson, president of our local community development organization, CRCD, Leticia Davis, and Larry Davis. He leaves also 3 grandchildren, 5 sisters, 12 brothers, and a host of cousins, nephews, and friends. Sonny will be greatly missed. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Price. I'm looking to my right anymore. I'm looking to my left. Then let me, Mr. Cedillo.
Yes, on Thursday, October 14th, we lost Mr. Sok Kong, a longtime member of the Koreatown community. He perished, or we lost him at the Union Tower from a fire that happened on the 10th, October 10th. And he was 82 years. He lived with his wife, and they were well known throughout Koreatown as the most loving and kind couple. And sadly, she is without him now. Mrs. Chung Kong remains here in Los Angeles. He was a realtor and lived at the Union Tower for 18 years. We miss him.
Thank you, Mr. Cedillo. And members, I was just informed that a dear friend of ours lost his wife last night, Mr. John Mack, Commissioner John Mack. He lost his wife, Harriet. She had been suffering from an illness for quite a while. Hopefully, when we are here on Friday, I'll have more particulars, but I do want to make sure that on this day we let him know that our thoughts and prayers are with him and his family. Okay, with that said, members, this meeting is adjourned.